Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Morning, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the class for skeletal system for ZOO10. Did any of you get any slide from the solving last week?
No, sir.
Okay. What I will do is after this class, is there a central class rep?
No, sir.
No, sir.
So I got the slide, sir.
You got the slide? Hello, did you get, who said?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir. I
you got
also
it.
got the slide also.
Yes,
So
sir.
if you're referring to this slide, then the subject sent it this morning.
So you can share it with your classmates. There are two of them. There are two slides. So whoever gets, you can send it to your classmates. The important thing is for everybody to have material so that if I explain, you can tag along with me. And then after the class, we have something to read for learning purposes and for exam purposes. Okay, so we will start the class by 10 a.m. on dot. So we can begin to go through the materials that we have so that to make the class fast. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I can't hear anything.
No, we see their face.
Good morning once again.
Morning, sir.
So let's start today's class. The topic is mammalian skeleton. What do we mean by this? Of course, being one of the systems of mammalian body, it must be performing certain functions. And some of the functions including providing a framework and attachment site for muscles and other tissues. What gives every animal a frame is the structure of the skeletal system. So for bipedal animals like primates or man, skeletal frame determines that we stand upright. Whereas for animals like the cat, the dogs that are quadrupedal, skeleton also provides that kind of structure for them. And then for all muscles, they must attach to the skeleton so that they can perform their function. And then some other tissues also form attachment to the muscles. And then the skeleton also provides protection for internal organs, like the nervous system. For instance, the cranium, which is the brain, encapsulates the brain, whereas the spinal cord is encapsulated by vertebral column. So the rib cage also protects the organs in the thoracic area, like the heart, the lungs, and so on and so forth. So the skeleton also is protective in nature. And then for some of the skeletons, they also represent the site of the blood cell production. We all know which bone of the body is responsible for red blood cell production. Anybody?
Bone marrow.
Bone marrow.
Bone marrow.
Bone marrow. So, and then what's unique about mammalian red blood cell? There's something unique about it. What do you think that is?
Transport oxygen.
Contains
Of course, it
hemoglobin
does.
for absorption of oxygen.
That's the transport of oxygen is not peculiar to mammals. Some other the red blood cells for birds, for reptiles also, and sort of thing. I mean, what's unique to the red blood cell?
It contains hemoglobin.
By a concave shape.
Because it's by concave shape, that's also unique. But the one I'm interested in is the fact that they are anucleated for maturity. They don't have nucleus. They don't have nucleus. And when a living cell is anucleated, it means that it cannot reproduce by mitosis, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So it
sir.
means that new red blood cells must be produced elsewhere. Because if red blood cells were nucleated, they can easily reproduce by mitosis themselves. But red blood cells die after a couple of months, and the new ones must be produced from the bone marrow. So that's another very good function of the skeletal system. And then they also play a role in the endocrine regulation, to control blood sugar and so on and so forth. The same thing with the calcium deposition in the body. The bone is also responsible for it. When you have too much calcium in the body, the skeletal tend to pick up this extra calcium ion. And when the blood is short of the calcium ion, the bone is responsible for release of calcium ion into the system. And this is a part of the function. That's also the last point that it acts as a reservoir for calcium and phosphorus. Which animal skeleton are we looking at like this? On this?
Rabbits.
Which animal?
Kangaroo.
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 That's a kangaroo.
Kangaroo. Kangaroo, because the hind limbs of a rabbit will not be this long. This is the skeleton of a kangaroo. So you can see what I said about the skeletal system providing a framework. So once you can identify the skeletal structure of any animal, even without seeing the animal, once you see the skeleton, you have an idea of what it would look like. It's covered in flesh and blood. Now let's look at the general regions for the mammalian skeleton. It's divided into two broad parts: the axial and the appendicular skeleton. Axial, that's the central arc of the skeletal system, and this will comprise of the skull, the vertebral column, and the rib cage. The appendicular will be the limbic system and the pelvic systems. And that's what we see. Skeleton is called, and then the appendicular skeleton red. Now, there's types of bones. System. Have long bones, for example, the femur, the humerus, the metacarpals, and these are some of the long bones. Hello. Hello. Okay, let me continue.
Yes.
Then we have
Yeah, we're
the
hearing.
We
cuboidal
can hear you,
bones.
sir.
We have the cuboidal bones like the carpals and the tarsus. The pictures you are looking at represent the bones of different types of mammals. And then we have the plate-like bones, which involves the scapula, the pelvis, and the femur. These ones are somehow flat here. The of the boy previous slide shown. Then we have the sesame, which involves the patella and the knuckle. Then What about regions of the bone? Because for the long bones, the entirety of the length of the bone, not, symmetric. So there are some parts that will be more denser than the other, and there will be some parts. For instance, the diaphysis, which is the shaft of the long bone, when the epiphysis, which is the ends of the bone, and then have the metaphysis, which transitions between diaphysis and epiphysis. And then you can see some of the details on the diagram. So, which bone do you think we're looking at? What's the bone? We've seen it before.
Humerus.
What's the name of this? Some of us should have seen it. This is the femur. This is the femoral bone, the thigh bone. This is the femur. So you can see the belly and the bone. So it is the inner core, which actually helps in the bone marrow, which contains the bone marrow and is responsible for red blood cell. Now let's look at, there are 5 major bones, making up the vertebral column. We have the cervical, which is the closest to the skull, and followed by the thick, the lumbar, which is around the stomach. Then we have the sacral bone, and then the caudal bone. And then they are depicted in the pictures you're looking at. For most mammals, the cervical bone is kind of fixed in number. The bone that has the highest variation in terms of number is the bone, because it's, but the cervical bones is
So your
very
voice
fixed
is.
in number. The number of cervical. Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
I think it's the network. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was talking about the vertebrae. I said the closest to the skull is the cervical vertebrae, which is usually fixed in number, then followed by the thoracic, followed by the lumbar, the caudal bone vertebrae. And I mentioned that in terms of number is caudal vertebrae because this is dependent on the length of the animal, this type of bone. What's the number of cervical vertebrae we have in man, for instance? What's the number?
4. 4.
4? No, that's not correct.
7.
It's 7. 7 cervical vertebrae. Out of these 7, 5 are immovable and then 2 are movable. What's the name of the first 2 cervical vertebrae that are movable?
Axis and Atlas.
Atlas and axis vertebrae. And then these 2, the essence of the movement, is to allow for the nodding skull. Bring it down, and then it can also allow us, take sideways glances. Now, can you let's look at an animal like giraffe. How many cervical vertebrae do you think such an animal have?
7.
7.
5.
Despite the
7.
length of the neck. You mean it has 7 despite the length of the neck?
Yes, sir.
But
They're
that's
just
that's correct. That's correct. Despite the length of the neck, the animal has 7 cervical vertebrae. It's just that each of the vertebrae is very, very big, very big. So it has 7. So regardless of the length. Then we have the cervical, we have the thoracic vertebrae, which form point of articulation for the cage. An extension of the thoracic vertebrae allows for the formation of the rib cage, and in front of the rib cage we have a soft cartilaginous part which is called the sternum, which for muscle attachment to enhance breathing and out for these animals. vertebrae is in the region for mammals. Almost all mammals exert the vertebrae. The topmost of these vertebrae are nerves and axes, which articulate the skull and you can
We can't hear you well.
So we can't hear you well, and the slide is not moving.
Can you see what can you see on the slide now?
Cervical vertebra.
Okay. So do you mean I should repeat this?
No, I thought you were talking on thoracic already.
Yes. I just wanted to confirm that you have. So this is a picture of the atlas and the axis vertebrae, and then the others are vertebral vertebrae. So this is you might be opportune to see some of these bones during the practical session. So be able to also see articulation points and how they allow for upward and downward movement of the skull. For the thoracic vertebrae, they connect to the ribs, like I said. They often have large dorsal spines. And then for mammals, the number varies between 12 and 15 thoracic vertebrae, depending on how large the animal is. So the variation is between 12 and 15. And then you can see them in picture colored orange, and then you can see the rib cage attachment to these bones, and then the bone or the matrix called the sternum, which allows for expansion and contraction of the thoracic vertebrae. Then we have the lumbar. The lumbar vertebrae is referred to as the bones of the lower back region, and then they form a link to the pelvis. For most mammals, the number is between 6 and 7, and then for very large ones like whales, the number is as high as 20. And then they often have many spines and processes. You can see the lumbar vertebrae. What's the color here on this slide?
Blue. Blue. It's blue.
Blue in color. And then if you count the number, you see that it's actually 7. And then the next one is the sacral vertebra, which is the smallest in number. Usually supportive of pelvic girdle. It's often fused together and usually 10 to the 5. But in some mammals, edentata, they can be as many as, when we say edentata, animals, and that will include the
I can't hear you, it's cracking.
adva. Am I audible now?
We can hear you, but it's still cracking.
We can't hear you, sir.
So we can't hear you.
And we can't see your slides either.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me share. Let me share the slide. Sorry for the interruption. I think the network here is
No problem, sir.
all right. So I think we were discussing sacral vertebrae.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can you see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So the sacral vertebrae, I said they have the smallest number. For most mammals, it's between 3 to 5. But there's a particular animal group where the number is as much as 10. That's in dentata. When we say dentata, we are talking about animals without dentition. And the most common example, aardvark is spelled AARDVARK. Aardvark. I don't know if anybody has heard of that. Has anybody seen the animal before?
Yes, sir.
An aardvark? Okay. So that animal has 10 sacral vertebrae. And then the last but not the least, bones of the vertebral column. The last but not the least of all the bones of the vertebral column is the caudal vertebrae. And that essentially translates to the tail bones. They are smaller in terms of size, and they are elongate, and then they are simpler than those, and they do not contain any spinal cord, although they do have a nerve endings and blood vessels. So what we mean by that is that the spinal cord does not innervate the bones of the caudal vertebrae. So there's no need for them to be that big to accommodate passage of spinal cord. Rather, what they have, connecting the tail is the nerve end. And then in humans and apes, bones are fused to form the coccyx. So that means for these two set of mammals, there's no functional caudal vertebrae in adult forms. You only have. At what point do you think we have a caudal vertebrae in human beings? At what
Like the
stage?
baby, before giving birth to child.
At the embryonic period. When the baby develops. But as the baby grows, even before birth, the bones become vestigial, and then they form what we call the coccyx in adult human beings. That's the correct spelling. Aardvark. Thanks for information. And then we've discussed the axial skeleton now, comprising of the skull, the vertebral column. For the vertebral column, we've mentioned, let's list the bones of the vertebral column again. I just want to see that you're following me.
The
Cervical.
Cervical,
thorax,
sacral,
lumbar,
lumbar,
and caudal.
Exactly. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and caudal vertebrae. All of these bones that we have described, they are essentially part of the axial skeleton. Axial skeleton, the skull and vertebral column. Now, this alone would not make any animal functional unless it is attached to the appendicular skeleton. So the appendicular skeleton, there are two types. The first are the limbic skeletons, which are the forelimbs and the hind limbs for quadrupedal animals, and then for the hands and legs for bipedal animals like humans and apes. But how will these limbs connect to? How will they connect to the axial skeleton? how will they connect to the axial skeleton? So they need to have the girdle systems for this connection. So we have the pectoral girdle, which is the one that connects the forelimbs to the axial skeleton, and then we have the pelvic girdle, which links the hind limbs to the axial skeleton. So on these girdles, that's where you now have points of attachment for the systems, and that's what you are seeing on this diagram there. You can see them in the pectoral girdle and pelvic girdle. The pelvic girdle will have the clavicle and the scapula. The clavicle and the scapula. The clavicle is the collarbone, the scapula is the shoulder blade. For human beings, where do you find the clavicle? Where do you find the collarbone? Is it front or back?
Front.
Front.
It's in front. That's the one that you can actually touch. It's a bit curved in front of the upper torso. And then for the shoulder blade is behind you. If you raise your arm or you look in a mirror, you see the shoulder blade. These two, bones form the pectoral girdle. At the end of the pectoral girdle, you now have a ball and socket joint through which the humerus, which is the bone of forelimbs, now attached to the pectoral girdle. So that will make, for instance, a human being able to rotate its arm almost in a 360 angle dimension. So you can see from the diagram, you can see the vertebrae, the scapula, the clavicle, and then the humerus, and then some other parts. Then for the pelvic girdle, the bones are three in number: the ischium, pubis. These are the three bones making up pelvic girdle. Just like the pectoral girdle too, there's a ball and socket joint at the tail end of pelvic girdle that also allows for insertion of the femoral bone, and it can also allow for forward, backward, and sideways rotation of the hind limbs. So you can see the picture of ilium. The ilium is the one that directly connects to the axial skeleton. Then we have the pelvis, and then we have the ischium, and then the hip joint. The hip joint is ball and socket, which allows for the femoral bone to fit into the pelvic girdle. Now, the variation with the pelvic and pectoral girdle is such that for different animals, depending on how the animal is shaped, it will determine how wide the pelvic girdle can spread. It will determine how wide the pectoral girdle can spread. For human beings, our pectoral girdle is widely spread, which allows for upward posture of the human body, and then how wide an animal. So if an animal has to be broad-chested like humans and apes, the pectoral girdle must spread out like the page of a book. Whereas for animals that are quadrupedal, then the pectoral girdle must close up so that the limbs can be sideways. For humans, the shape of the pelvic girdle also varies between male and female. For female, the pelvic girdle is wider, which creates a passageway which we call the birth canal, for delivery of babies, when the time is necessary. Whereas for males, the pelvic girdle is closer together because there's no necessity for such a birth canal. And that's why, in matured females, you see that the hip bones are wider for to prepare the body for eventual of the human fetus. I hope I'm still audible.
Yes, sir.
Sir. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So this slide is trying to show us a review of what we learned in the last 20-something minutes or thereabouts. What do skeletons do? We can always go back to the first slide and determine what are the functions of the skeletons, what are the regions of the skeleton, the types of bones, the types of vertebrae, how do axial and appendicular skeletons connect, how does the vertebral column articulate with the skull. Let's tackle the last question. How does the vertebral column articulate with the skull? How does the vertebral column articulate with the skull?
Cervical vertebrae.
Atlas and Atlas.
Exactly. The connection is the atlas vertebrae. The attachment is such that it allows for upward and downward and the sideways movement of the skull. Now, for all of the bones we have discussed, let's also note that the essence of having different types of bones, different types of vertebrae, different types of articulation is to allow for flexibility. Because if all of these bones were in one piece, it means that humans will be moving around like trees. Trees have branches, and then imagine a tree moving, and then the branches are spread sideways. It will make the whole essence of having a skeletal structure very cumbersome. Now, even up to our fingertips, most of the bones that we have described so far, they have several points of articulation, which allows for maneuverability of these bones. So it allows for so much flexibility. We can move, we can bend, we can twist, we can grasp, we can release, we can do sideways, so there are so many joints in different parts of the bone, to allow for all of these effects. But there are three main types of joints in terms of bones. Who can help us? There are three main types of joints you find in the skeletal system.
Ball
movable
and
joint.
socket,
Socket.
The
gliding
ball and
and
socket
hinge
joint,
joint.
Hinge joint.
the
Hinge
hinge
joint,
Pivot
ball and
joint.
socket joint.
Gliding.
Sliding joint, the ball and socket joint.
Pivot.
There's a third one. There's a third one which is exclusive to the skull.
Sutures
suture
of the
joint.
skull.
Suture joints. Suture spelled as SUTURE. Suture joint. So when you see a skull, you see some thin lines on different parts of the skull, which allows for, the suture joints are like the joints we have on our bridges that allows for expansion. How many of us have seen such joints on the bridges in Lagos?
Yes, sir.
So those joints on the bridges allows for expansion, because of the metallic components of the bridges. So the same thing with the suture joint that allows for expansion. Imagine if a baby has a fixed skull size, it becomes a challenge for the skull to begin to grow in size as human beings also grow. So the suture joint on the skull allows for regulated expansion of the brain until the skull reaches maturity, and then the skull does not grow bigger anymore. So let me go to the next slide, which is less of diagrams. This one is trying to, give us just narrative without any pictorials. I decided to show the first one so that we can relate with some of the bones that we might have seen before or we've not seen before. But this one is just essay. The mammalian skeleton made up of the axial and articular skeletons. The axial skeleton, for the purposes of repetition, is made up of the skull, the vertebral column, and the rib cage. The sternum is what I said is the front, which connects the rib cage on either side of the thoracic vertebra. Then we have the appendicular skeleton comprised of the pelvic girdle, the pectoral girdle, the limbic system. For the skull, the skull is comprised of two main parts: the cranium, which is the brain box, and then we have the facial bone, which supports the nose, the eye, and also the cheek. And the vertebral column is made up of 33 short bones, the cervical 7 in number, the thoracic 12, the lumbar 5, the sacral sometimes 5, but sometimes it can be as low as 3, and can be as high as 10. And then we have the other bone, which is usually 4. The number given here is representative of human beings to a large extent. So, because if you look at other mammals like cat and dogs, tails, or even the kangaroo, tails contain in excess of 30 caudal vertebrae. And then the cervical vertebrae is complete that there are 7 in number in mammals. And the first and second are modified, because of the function they will perform. The atlas and the axial vertebrae, they allow for upward and downward movement of the skull as well as sideways. And then the characteristics of the atlas, that's a very large neural canal. Because why do you think it has the largest neural canal?
For the passage of spinal cord.
Exactly, it's the closest to the brain. And what's the name of that hind brain that connects to the spinal cord?
Medulla.
The
Medulla oblongata.
The medulla, God bless you. The medulla oblongata. That's the last part of the brain that connects to the spinal cord. So because the spinal cord will be very big at that point, so therefore the atlas must have a very wide neural canal to allow for the passage of the spinal cord. As the spinal cord descends towards the sacral vertebrae, it becomes thinner. It becomes thinner. So that's why the atlas has a very large neural canal. It has flat and broad transverse processes. The neural spine is very short or absent, and because it's not necessary at that point, the centrum is also absent, and then it has vertebral canals. It allows for the head to nod, the upward and downward movement of the skull. What about the axis? It has a broad and flat centrum. The centrum projection is frontal. It is large and flattened. That's vertebral. So that's transverse processes that give a pin-like structure. Hopefully, we'll try and make provision for this one in the lab so that we see how they function. Please, if you are not speaking, can you mute yourself? Thank you. Then we have the thoracic. So the function of the axis vertebrae that supports the head and allows for the turning and twisting of the head. So the atlas allows for nodding. The axis allows for turning and twisting of the head, of the skull, so to speak. Then we have the thoracic vertebrae. It has long neural spine. So this one does not have a wide, it has long neural spine. And it has a shallow transverse processes with the articular surface, capitular face and tubercles. And a large cylindrical centrum, and it has a pair of short transverse processes. And the lumbar vertebrae, broad neural canal, large transverse processes. It has an apophysis, centrum and neural canals. Then the sacral vertebrae, the vertebrae here are fused together to form a strong base with which the pelvic guard from the pelvis, pelvic protect the abdominal. Other vertebrae, this vertebrae form the tail where it is present. So the number varies, and the man it is vestigial. Then the appendicular skeleton, the pectoral girdle, like I said, made up of scapula, and clavicular cord is also part of it. Then the pelvic girdle, and the pubis. Then the limb girdles, these are bones within the body which act as supportive framework which are attached. The main part of the limb is made up of proximal bone. Now, can we name some of the bones of the 4 limbs? Right from the pectoral girdle to the digits. What are the names? What are the names?
Tarsals, metatarsals. I don't know.
No, we are starting from the shoulder.
Your question.
Okay, the shoulder.
Yes.
The ulnar,
The humerus.
Humerus,
Which one?
ulnar
Wait,
radius.
which one connects? Which one connects to the pectoral girdle? Which one connects
The
to the pectoral girdle
humerus.
directly?
Humerus.
Humerus. Then
Humerus.
followed by
Radius and ulnar.
The
The
ulnar and
radius
radius and
ulnar
ulnar.
radius.
Exactly. And then we now have what?
Kappa.
Kappa, metacarpal, and
Metacarpal
phalanges.
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 Exactly. Now, what about the hind limbs? Which one connects directly to the pelvic girdle?
Femur.
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 Patella.
Yes,
Tibia and fibula.
Tibia.
Tibia. Femur,
Exactly.
tibia.
metatarsal.
Tarsal.
Metatarsal,
Metatarsal. Phalange.
tarsal, and phalanges.
Which bone is the longest in the human body?
Femur.
Femoral.
Femur.
And then which
And it's also
of
the
these bones
strongest.
are yes? Which bones are majorly responsible for red blood cell production?
Bone
There are
marrow.
three bones.
Bone marrow.
The humerus,
Yes, humerus.
the femur, and the rib cage.
Cages.
Those three bones are responsible for. And when some of us
Oh.
buy, and when we chew on this bone, you will actually see, you feel the texture of these bones that they contain a marrow to form red blood cells. And so that's the summary for the animal skeletal system. Is there any question you have for me?
So if you're going to send this slide, will it be this revised one you sent or the one you were using?
You said what?
If you're going to send this slide, are you going to send this revised one?
These are the same slides I sent to you through the subdin. I deliberately use the same slide.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So some people have already commented that they have these two slides, so I will encourage them to share with their colleagues.
Okay, sir.
The note can be more detailed than this, but because we are just 100 level students, we need to keep it as simple as possible, because what's important is for you to understand it. As you go higher, for instance, for those of us who are students of College of Medicine, by the time you go to the medical school, then you get much more details. Exactly, you get much more details about the skeletal system and so on and so forth. But
Okay, sir.
at this level, this is an introductory class, so it shouldn't be more complicated than this. Just know some of the key points, because your exam is going to be MCQ. You understand? So you need to master the slide, so that when we set the exam question and we give you options A to E, you'll be able to select the right answers among the lots.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Is there any questions?
No, sir.
So we'll have another class tomorrow. I'll confirm from my colleagues at the topic for tomorrow, if I'm the one that will take it.
Excuse me, sir.
So tomorrow's class will be 11, right?
Yes, sir.
Please feel free to. I'll put my number in the chat box, so you can always message me if you have any area that is ambiguous.
Okay, so that'll be great.
Wasn't sent.
Yes, I didn't see it either.
Excuse me, sir. I have a question.
So my name and number is in the chat box. So if you have any questions, you can message me on WhatsApp. I'll be glad to explain further or provide clarity. Any question again?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, can you please repeat the bones you said that produces red blood cells again?
The humerus, femur, and the rib cages.
The humerus, the femur, and the rib cage.
Wow.
The bones of the rib cage.
The scholars.
Bones of the rib cage.
I swear.
So are you thinking of the likelihood of it coming out in the exam? Is that why you asked? You just want to learn?
Both, sir.
In case of
All right.
Good, sir.
All right. If there's no other question, can we call it a day?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question. No.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. How are you, Dr. Dada? This is Ogunkomi on the line.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the lecture. I appreciate you. You have taught me
You're
today.
welcome, sir.
It was a nice one.
Thank
you.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
very
My
smooth.
HOD, well done, sir.
Oh,
All right,
God.
Thank you very much. So we'll see
Okay.
you tomorrow by God's grace.
Okay,
Have a
sir.
wonderful week ahead.
Thank you,
All
sir.
right, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Have a nice day, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.
All right. Yeah.
This number, you remove the phone zero. It's the person's OP. That's what. That's what. The person is Sarunio. Right.